This is the Sergio Rodriguez Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sergio Rodriguez Show, a show unlike any other. Today, week 17 in the NFL, a week that basically decided everything for us as we move forward into the NFL playoffs, the best week of football. And you know what? This year it gets a little better because you get an additional game in each conference as they added the extra playoff spot, which only gave one team a bye. We will discuss a couple of the games. We're going to go through them fairly quickly in a lot of instances because a lot of games really didn't affect the playoff situation. We're also going to preview the matchups for the playoffs, but we're not going to get in depth. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter show than we're accustomed to because this week, not only are we going to have this show, but we're also going to do a playoff preview where we'll actually get into those games. And we're also going to do a little college basketball and NBA later on in the week. So 3 shows this week, kicking off with this one, recapping week 17 in the NFL. Triangle Ink. Triangle Ink is the leading manufacturer in screen printing industry, delivering the finest inks for over 35 years. Check them out at triangleink.com or call them at 1-800-524-1592. Vergona Cranes, located at 180 West Forest Avenue in Englewood, New Jersey. Vergona Cranes operates 24 hours a day, providing crane rentals, trucking services, and warehousing for storage. Vergona Cranes services the New York and New Jersey area. Call them at 201-945-7209 or on their website at vergonacrane.com. Paramus Driving School. Safety and professionalism begins with Paramus Driving School, serving the North Jersey area like no other. Contact them at paramusdrivingschool.com or call them at 201-986-8300. Now, let's get going with these games, particularly the games that really affected the playoff situation, which were a couple. And look, there were a bunch of good ones. I know the one that everybody got set off about was the Washington Eagles game, and we'll discuss that one. We'll save that one for last because it had a little bit of a weird storyline the way it ended up playing out. But let's start in New York. The Giants 23-19 over the Cowboys. Theoretically speaking, I mean, look, McCarthy didn't challenge a catch, which gave the Giants an opportunity to go up 4 late in the 4th, which ultimately ended up being the winning margin because the Cowboys did drive down and have a 1st and goal where they would at worst have gotten a field goal to take the leads. And Dejas was phenomenal on Sunday. The Giants ended up giving themselves an opportunity to win the division, which basically went out the window when Washington won their game. Next year, what will it bring for the Cowboys? Who knows? They get their quarterback back. That'll help to a certain degree. I still think that the Cowboys need a lot defensively, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with the offensive line in terms of health. They're going to have to start making some tough decisions. The left tackle always seemingly hurt. You have a Pro Bowl guard who's closer to the end than the beginning. He's still very good, but he's always hurt too. He's always got some type of nagging injury the last couple of seasons. Not like the tackle, but he is, he's beginning to show his age. And they're going to have to make a decision about that. The Bills, 56-26 over Miami. Miami lost an opportunity to get themselves into the playoffs. I never felt they were going to be able to win this game going in for a couple of reasons. Number one, the line, the way it moved was very telling to me. But the second issue that I think will remain with the Dolphins as long as this kid's the quarterback is you can't play these games against good teams basically with one arm tied behind your back. And that's how the Dolphins play these games because they can't get any type of sustainable offense from the passing game. And when you can't do that, you're putting too much pressure on your defense and special teams to make every play. If you watch the Dolphins play every week, they leave you wondering how they're going to score if the defense doesn't turn you over and give you a short field, or the defense just doesn't outright score. And look, you know, Sunday was no different. He had 3 interceptions. So he hadn't really turned the ball over much in his games. It's also kind of hard to turn the ball over when you're really only dropping the ball off 5 and 6 yards on every check down. But, you know, he did throw a pick 6 in this game, but there was no relief pitcher to bail him out. Fitzpatrick was out. And once we saw that, we kind of knew. I really, for the life of me, cannot believe that the Dolphins passed up an opportunity to go to the playoffs this year by playing this kid. I can't, because in the NFL, very few teams can build every year and get better to a crescendo, right? So you could tell me, well, the Dolphins are trending because they're young, they have a lot of pieces, and we wanted to give the quarterback a chance to play. But the problem is that you don't know who's going to get hurt. Teams that normally turn you over a lot one year don't turn you over the next. It's not like the Dolphins are this great defense that's just putting a stranglehold on these games. You know, they're not the Rams, but what's happening is they're turning you over. So it's kind of masking what it is they do. You know, even the Cowboys, for example, who we spoke about to start the show, the last 4 or 5 weeks looked like a pretty good defense. Why? Well, they had damn near 12 or 13 turnovers. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And I just feel that in the NFL, when you have an opportunity to ring the bell and make the playoffs, you got to take it. Because it's just a fine line of one bounce of the ball or one injury that could just derail that following season that you prepared for. The Dolphins were down 28-6. They just were never really in the game at that point. Josh Allen, 18 for 25, 224, 3 touchdowns, and he should finish in the top 5 in the MVP ballot. The Ravens, 38-3 over Cincinnati. Baltimore clinches a playoff spot. They rushed for 404 yards on the day. Cleveland, 24-22 over Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh sits a bunch of their starters, and no one cares, including Big Ben. They were down 24-9. They scored a couple of touchdowns in the fourth quarter to make it look good, presentable, window dressing. But realistically, the Browns were in control most of the game. The Browns make the playoffs for the first time since my first marriage. That was a long time ago, by the way, just to let you know. Early 2000s. In fact, I don't even know if I was married at that time when they made it, because they might have made it like 2001 or 2002, and I think I got married for the first time in 2003. So that, but in any event, that just lets you know how long it's been, and I'm happy for those people in Cleveland, and I'm glad that it happened while OBJ is not participating, because I've been telling everybody when he went there that he was the reason why they would never win. And as soon as he got hurt, they went to the playoffs. So that's something that's comical to me, but we'll see what happens when he comes back next year. Minnesota 37-35 over Detroit. Fun game to watch. Cousins 28 for 40, 405, 3 touchdowns. Jefferson 9 for $133 for Minnesota. Jones Jr. 8 for $180 and 2 touchdowns for Detroit. Minnesota always leaves you wanting more. I don't know where they're going right now. I mean, there's only so many places they can really get better. They better get a kicker, I'll tell you that. Detroit, they're going to have a new head coach. I believe Minnesota should go out and get a new coach. I've told you guys that I feel I like him. I think he's one of the better coaches, but I think, he's taken Minnesota as far as they can go right now. The Pats 28-14 over the Jets. Cam Newton still says after the game in a press conference that he's still an NFL starter. I mean, I guess we can lie to ourselves our entire lives, but I mean, I can't believe that he actually believes that he could still compete at a high level in this league. The Pats will be better next year. They get a lot of guys that opted out back. And I'm sure they're going to go out and get a real quarterback to play that position, somebody that can make a difference. Look, it could end up being Garoppolo. I don't know how much Garoppolo is an improvement over Cam Newton. I'm not high on him either. He is an improvement. But, if he's available, does he come back? Stafford, if he's made available. Prescott, although I doubt that one. But they're definitely going to have somebody that's going to help them make a run. I think the Pats will be back as a 10 or an 11 win team next year, which factors into what I was talking about with the Dolphins. This was a year where you can get them because you were clearly the second best team in the league. Next year, the Jets are going to get better. They have a boatload of picks. And the Dolphins are going to have to also deal with the Patriots. So that's going to be an issue for them next year. But we'll see. The Jets, they're focused on the draft. I mean, it seems like they've been focused on the draft the whole year. They're focused on the draft. Let's see what they do. Do they get rid of Darnold and get themselves a quarterback? Do they keep Darnold and start stuffing all the other positions? Because they need a lot of players. Tampa Bay 44-27 over the Falcons. Beat them twice in a 3-week span. Brady 26 for 41, 399, 4 touchdowns and a pick. Brown 11 for 138 and 2 touchdowns. They're locked into the 5 spot. They're going to be traveling to Washington on Saturday night. What does Atlanta do? Do they go get themselves another quarterback? Do they run it back with this crew and look to get some coaching? Look, early in the year, they should have been a lot better in terms of wins and losses. They blew a lot of games, so we'll see what they do and how they handle that situation. Green Bay 35-16 over Chicago. Rodgers helps Green Bay lock up that 1 seed. He was 19 for 24, 240, and 4 touchdowns. Green Bay is the 1 seed. They get the bye. The Bears, although they lost, make the playoffs thanks to the Rams, who beat Arizona. And speaking of that, the Rams 18-7 over Arizona. The Rams win that play-in game essentially because of their defense was spectacular. They held Arizona to 214 total yards. Kyler Murray got hurt early in the game, which essentially meant that 2 backups were playing. We originally spoke about how Goff definitely was out and Murray was questionable. Murray ended up starting, but then ended up obviously leaving the game. Arizona finishes 8-8. How do they get better? I don't know. That's an interesting point because offensively, they were pretty good. A little up and down at times, but statistically pretty good. They need to get better defensively because that league also is going to have 3 teams that are going to be very competitive for the next couple of years. The Raiders 32-31 over Denver. Waller, a phenomenal season, just a great year. I actually had Waller in fantasy. I would tell you that he was the biggest difference maker for me, having a tight end putting up those numbers every week for the Raiders. 9 for $117 and a touchdown this week. Drew Lock was really good this Sunday. 25 for 41, 339 and 2 touchdowns. I would tell you that the Broncos are going to give Drew Lock one last shot, healthy, and with a healthy squad moving forward. That league, that division is going to be rough. Kansas City's going to be good again next year. The Chargers are going to be a lot better now that they got rid of Anthony Lynn. The Raiders, I think, are going to be better. But that Drew Lock, I think, I'm still not going to sell my Drew Lock stock. And I'm going to be interested to see how he plays next year, coming in with an off season and everything in place. Judy had a big game for Denver also. 5 for $140 and a touchdown. The Colts, 28-14 over the Jaguars. Jonathan Taylor. You know, I killed Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to tell you, like, about the first 10 or 11 weeks, he was a highly touted rookie who came in and a lot of things were expected from. He ended up with 30 carries, 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. The last couple of weeks, man, he's been picking it up, playing well, giving the Colts some future, something to smile about for the future in terms of a running game, which had been a bit of a problem for them throughout the season. The Jags get a new coach. They will get a new quarterback because that's what we all expect. We all expect them to take Trevor Lawrence, and obviously they're going to get a new coach. They got a lot of salary cap space. We'll see where they go. The Chargers, 38-21 over Kansas City. Kansas City sat a bunch of players also. No one cared. Meanwhile, the Chargers helped other people get better draft picks because they won and moved down in the draft, or moved up, however you want to look at it. Herbert, 22 for 31, 302 and 3 touchdowns. The Chiefs are the 1 seed when the playoffs begin in 2 weeks from now for them. Seattle, 26-23 over San Francisco, a game that I didn't even see one playoff on Sunday, not one. I always flip around and then I go back on Mondays to watch games, and I didn't watch one play of this game on Sunday because realistically, it seemed like every time I went there was really nothing going on. I went there twice and I caught commercials both times, and it was there was nothing really. I could find nothing going on. The game seemed like it was dragging on the ticker as I was watching it at the bottom and following it. But Seattle wins, and they head to the playoffs with a defense that's actually beginning to play a lot better now, but the offense is really struggling. The 49ers need a quarterback. We know that. Garoppolo's not the answer. One, he's always hurt. Forget about his play. One, he's just always hurt. Two, his play. So they're going to need a quarterback. But I'll tell you, if the 49ers get a QB, whether it's someone like Darnold, they can immediately become an 8-9 win team next year. The Saints, 33-7 over Carolina. The Saints are the 2 seed. They're locked into that. And they should have Kamara. You know, they caught a break because they played this weekend without Kamara and Murray and the running backs. But they caught a break because the protocol allows them to come back and play on Sunday. If they would have been scheduled on Saturday, they probably would not have been allowed to play. Interesting enough, the NFL said they were not going to plan their TV schedule or their game schedule based on players missing or possibly missing because of COVID. So we'll take them at their word, but the Saints are still playing on Sunday. Carolina has a lot to look forward to. I think that Matt Rule did a good job this year. I think that they are headed in the right direction in Carolina. Tennessee, 41-33 over Houston. Henry, 34 for 250 and 2 touchdowns, goes over the 2,000-yard mark. A phenomenal, phenomenal season for Henry. Could you imagine if at some point during this year you traded Henry in fantasy? Wow. That must have been terrible. Watson, statistically, a solid year. I was looking at his numbers. Solid. Look, you guys know how I feel about him. I still feel he gets a lot of empty calorie stats. because even if you look at his yardage, doesn't match up with the touchdowns. I mean, he finally went over 30 touchdowns this year. He's always been in that mid-20 range. He doesn't turn the ball over, which is good. And look, you guys know my feelings on Deshaun Watson. He's the worst kind of quarterback to have. He's really good. But really good gets paid like great in the NFL. And in a salary cap league, when you got to pay really good great, you just are not going to be able to win because he's not going to cover up mistakes. He's not good enough. He's better than most, but not good enough to cover up a deficiency that is going to occur because of his salary at other positions. Washington, 24-20. They beat the Eagles. They win the division. And let's talk about why this became an issue. So at 17-14, the Eagles decide not to kick a field goal. They go for it on 4th and goal from the 4. They don't get it. So the Eagles still trail. Washington takes the ball, drives down, ends up punting. When they punt it away, and now it's the 4th quarter, Doug Peterson goes to the backup quarterback. Everybody's flipping out, basically saying that he's tanking the game. I have 3 opinions about this. Number 1, from the Giants side. If you're a Giants fan and you have an issue with this, you're crazy. You're crazy. You cannot be upset when you win 6 games and you put your fate in somebody else's hands. You can't be upset with the outcome, regardless of how they choose to play that. You can't be upset with that. And if you are upset, you got to keep it to yourself. You can't voice that. The head coach coming out saying that they're never going to embarrass the game that way, the integrity of the game. First of all, if you were in that situation, or if you were in a situation where you had something wrapped up and there was no need to play Barkley next year, are you going to tell me you're going to run him out and give him 32 carries because the Cowboys need you to win that game? Stop. And where was all this integrity when you were a coach in an organization like the Patriots, who has been proven to be cheating on a number of occasions? You were a coach on that staff. Where was the integrity then? That's point 1. Point 2. If you're an Eagles fan and you want to be upset because you pay your money for that, to watch that team, because you invest your time and you feel that they let you down by not having 100% of their top talent on the field for the entire 4 quarters, I can live with that if you feel that way. I'm okay with that. But you got to understand that you're playing for next year. The moment you lost week 16, you were playing for next year. And so Doug Peterson did what he felt is in your best interest for next year, period. Now, here's the one where I'm a little conflicted on. As a coach, as someone who's coached for over 25 years, I will tell you that I can appreciate going out and trying to win the game. I don't think I've ever coached a game and not tried to win. But I will tell you that when you spend the amount of time that a guy like Doug Peterson does, or any coach, with players who are working hard, practicing all year, and you have a game that doesn't affect you in the standings, and you want to give somebody an opportunity to get some burn and get out on that field, maybe give a guy who's going to be a free agent and you don't even know his name, but get an opportunity to put some good quality game footage on film for somebody else to see, you can't kill him for that. So I'm kind of caught in between that one, but I would tell you that if Doug Peterson felt that the way to go was to play the game the way he played it and play these guys who maybe were not going to put, like I said earlier, the best 100% talent, but he felt that he wanted to give guys an opportunity or a chance to play, who are we to knock him? It's his job. It's his job. And guess what? 4 or 5 months from now, when the NFL draft comes around, all these Eagles fans are going to be, who did have a problem, are going to be happy their team is drafting 6th and not 9th. So, it is what it is. Lucimer Auto Body, located at 27 Austin Street in Newark, provides top-of-the-line service to make your collision experience as smooth as possible. Go to lucimer.com or call them at 973-824-0113. M&J Luxury Inc. For the most unique experience in the medical transportation business, call M&J. Located in New York City with over 1,000 cars at your disposal, call them at 718-278-2222 or 914-484-7264. Fairfield Physical Therapy Center, located in the Fairfield Commons, Suite G106, is owned and operated by Justin Solotov. My man, Justin Solotov, who was very upset, by the way, that St. John's had to cancel their game against DePaul the other day. He thought that we were going to have to sit out for an entire month, basically, with the COVID protocol. But St. John's ended up having a false positive. So they're back Wednesday against Xavier. So you should be good, Justin. In any event, Justin has over 20 years of experience in the field of orthopedic physical therapy. Call Justin at 973-276-1313 and stop living with pain and discomfort. Epic Car Service is recognized as the #1 service or car service in New York City by medical transportation standards. Located in the Bronx, New York, Epic Car Service will make your commute a safe and comfortable experience. Call Epic at 718-401-3742 or at 844-666-6278. On January 1st, by the way, Happy New Year to everybody. On January 1st, we had the 2 Final Four playoff games for the NCAA college football. Game 1, a laugher. I mean, the game ended up being 31-14. That game was 31-7. Notre Dame with a backdoor cover with 56 seconds. Look, we told you Notre Dame had no business being in that game. Vegas told you they had no business being in that game, making them a 20-point underdog, and they proved they had no business being in that game. Ohio State 49-28 over Clemson. Justin Fields, phenomenal. 22 for 38, 385, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, and played that game beat up. He took a shot, he was hurt, and he came back in. He showed me a lot that game. Trevor Lawrence threw for 400 yards, but on that day, he was the second best quarterback on that field. Believe you me. Like I mentioned earlier in the show this week, stay tuned because we're going to have a playoff show that's going to probably air on Thursday of this week, and then a college hoop show that's going to probably air on Friday of this week. So stay tuned for that later on in the week. Before we say goodbye, I do want to give you guys the lineup for this weekend and just give you some of the Vegas lines that came out. Since this is really the gambling portion of the show, I'm not going to make my picks. I'm going to save that for the gambling for the playoff show, but I'm still going to give you the lines today. Stan Sports Center is your local full-service authorized team dealer for all of your favorite sports brands. Family owned and operated, Stan's has proudly supplied apparel, uniforms, equipment, varsity jackets, and much more for the entire tri-state area since 1946. Find them online at stansportsctr.com and contact them today for your sporting goods needs. 6 games this weekend. 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. Saturday, 1 o'clock. Buffalo's a 6-point favorite at home against Indianapolis. 4 o'clock on Saturday. Seattle is a 3.5-point favorite at home against the Rams. 8 o'clock on Saturday. Tampa Bay travels to Washington, and Tampa is an 8.5-point favorite in that game. Sunday, 1 o'clock, Baltimore travels to Tennessee, and Baltimore is a 3-point favorite on the road at Tennessee. Chicago travels to New Orleans, where New Orleans will be awaiting as a 9.5-point favorite at 4 o'clock on Sunday. And the night game in Game 6 of the weekend will be at 8 o'clock on Sunday, and Pittsburgh is a 6-point favorite over the Cleveland Browns. A Cleveland Browns team whose coach, Stefanski, is not going to coach. Earlier today, it was announced that he's in the COVID protocol, and there was a couple of players that have an issue. Nobody really that stood out as a player, noticeable per se, but obviously they're dealing with this stuff as they're going into a playoff game, which nobody wants to do. Well, everybody, thank you for listening to the Sergio Rodriguez Show. Like I said, look forward to the next 2 shows on the next couple of days coming out, because we will definitely do the playoff preview, which will have the picks. Speaking of picks, we were 5-2 last weekend. Just a phenomenal, easily over 20 games for over 500 for the season. We made everybody a lot of money this year. Again, thank you for listening, and remember that the Sergio Rodriguez Show is a show unlike any other.